Good afternoon. Is it working? Okay. Good afternoon. We'd like to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. It's with great pleasure that I welcome you all to Celebrating Teachers 2023 edition, the BEF's annual event where we honor and celebrate Brookline's exceptional educators. My name is Catherine Burke, and I'm the president of the Brookline Education Foundation. Celebrating Teachers is one of the highlights of our year, where we can show public appreciation and thanks for the important work that happens every day in Brookline classrooms. To all of our educators here today, we warmly welcome you. I want to welcome also administrators, parents, and students who are here, our generous donors and others from the Brookline community who have joined us. And I would like to acknowledge all past Caverly Award winners who are in the room. Could those of you who are here please stand up? I'd also like to especially welcome our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Linus Guillory. Please welcome Dr. Guillory, who will come say a few words.
Thank you, Catherine. So great to stand here in front of you for this awesome evening. I have the pleasure of going around surprising the awardees each year. And I can tell you after 2 years, this is one of the highlights of my work experience. And this year was not a failure by any means. We had the opportunity to visit both Heath and BHS, of course, and just the outpouring of love and appreciation for what's happening in our classrooms, being acknowledged by the Brookline Education Foundation, as well as all of you through allowing us the wonderful opportunity to serve your children in the public schools of Brookline. I am looking forward to hearing the speeches tonight and look forward to celebrating again in this awesome endeavor. Thank you all for being here tonight, and congratulations again to our awardees.
Thank you, Dr. Guillory. I'd also like to welcome members of our school committee and other elected officials. I ask that you please stand so we can thank you for your time, energy, and service in helping Brookline remain committed to education. The work of the BEF would not be possible without the tremendous efforts of the members of our board of directors and our advisory board. I would like to ask all current board members and members of the advisory board who are here to stand up and be acknowledged. And finally, I wish to recognize our executive director, Elizabeth Askley, and our associate director, Jenny Rothman, for the terrific work that they have done in arranging today's celebration and for all their work throughout the year. Brookline educators have a curiosity about the world and a passion for learning. They are committed to inspiring and challenging young minds, and they harbor a lifelong love of learning. The BEF's grant-making approach supports, facilitates, and encourages the pursuit of these qualities. All of our grants are grassroots teacher-driven, meaning that the teachers themselves know what they need and want, and they write their own proposals requesting funding. BEF Idea Lab grants provide support for experimenting with creative and innovative ideas in the classroom, with an emphasis on hands-on experiential learning. Teacher grants provide opportunities for teachers to deepen their knowledge in their own field or to explore new areas. Collaborative grants promote cooperative efforts across disciplines, across grade levels, and across schools. System-wide grants provide opportunities for innovative thinking around issues that impact the entire system. It is my pleasure now to introduce Laura Paris, a member of the Idea Lab Grants Committee, and Diane Picorni-Wilson, chair of our Teacher Grants Committee, who will introduce this year's grant recipients, and Executive Committee member Karen Wang, who will announce some special awards.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to announce the BEF Idea Lab grants that were awarded in the fall of this school year. On behalf of the BEF, I want to say thank you to the many members of our grants committees, and a special thanks to Michelle Herman and Gabe McCormick for all of their work in assisting our grant committees. First, we would like to acknowledge our 19 Idea Lab recipients. After I read all of the Idea Lab recipients, I will ask you to stand to be acknowledged. Katya Babitskaya, Brookline High School. Matt Picard, Heath School. Britt Stevens, Brookline High. Jennifer Malone, Florida Ruffin Ridley School. That's my school and I can't say it. Donna Sartanowitz, Brookline High. Kristen Kenny, Pierce School. Lauren Tavares and Caroline Shea, Runkle School. Talmadge Nardi, Brookline High. Stephanie Goodman, Pierce School. Alejandra Traub and Sue Zob, Lincoln School. Alicia Osborne Stackpole, Beep. Laura Tanis, Beep. Nina Bishop, Brookline High School. Aubrey Love, Catalyst winner, Brookline High. Michelle Bartley, Driscoll School. Karen Shashwa and Allison Kerr, Heath School. Amy Ostroff, Lucy McNeil. Denise London, Latia Van Loan, Baker School. Carlin Wainoyama, Curriculum Coordinator for K through 12, and Amy Ostroff, Baker School. Could you all please stand? Congratulations to our Idea Lab grant recipients. Now I would like to introduce Diane Picorni-Wilson, Chair of the Teacher Grants Committee.
This year, the BEF has awarded 18 teacher grants, totaling over $52,000 and directly involving 24 educators. I'm going to announce the grants and then ask you all to stand together to be recognized. Recipients are Lisa Soltani and Jennifer Jordan, Park City Math Institute. Erica O'Mahony, Cartagena, Afro-Latino History and Culture in Colombia. Yasmin Sharif, Exploring the Biotic and Abiotic Features of the Antarctic. Jennifer Jerusi, Summer in Turkey, Cultural and Immersion Experience with a Special Education Lens. Danielle Goldie, Exploring Volcanic and Tectonic Activity in Iceland. Sarah Harris and Caitlin Doherty, Cultural and Educational Exploration of South Korea. Mira Klatzker, Wilson Reading System Introductory Course. Amanda David, Attending the Power of Art, Pathways to Critical Thinking and Social Emotional Learning. Devin Oberly, Forest Therapy. Laura Brady, Spanish Teachers Program in Costa Rica. Basha Goldstein-Weiss, Art Educator, Japan Institute. Katie Goldring, Spanish Language Study in Merida, Mexico. Asha Larray, Mindfulness and Yoga in OT. Melissa London and Mark Goldner, Costa Rica, Bringing Hope to the Climate Crisis. Elise Terry, Reconsidering Rome. Anna Mary Levasseur, Brookline Interactive Group, Professional Development Summer Sprint. Ali Gasabian, Ann Sheridan, Dylan Zobel, and Dr. Meredith Huntley, American Orff Schulwerk Association Professional Development Conference. And Sarah Cudahy, Befriending the Pause, Expanding Capacity for Calm, Connection, and Compassion. Would our teacher grant recipients please stand? And congratulations. Off script, I love how much travel is back and happening. Very exciting. We have also awarded 13 collaborative grants, totaling over $120,000, and directly working with at least 99 educators. Again, after I announce the grants, I will ask our recipients to be acknowledged together. Our collaborative grants are Collaborative Grant for Speech and Language, ASHA National Conference, leader Audra Francisco. Summer Learning Had Me a Blast at the Wilson Reading System Certified Teacher Conference, the leader Laura London. AOGPE Annual Conference, leader Heidi Stavris. American Association of School Libraries Conference, leader Deb Abner. The BHS Cafe Conference for the culinary team, leader Elizabeth Riccardelli. 2024 NAEA National Convention, leader Amanda Hawkinsmith. Improving District-Wide School Psychological Services and Practices, leader Robert Babigian. Anti-Racism, Anti-Biased Curriculum Development, leader Eileen Pushy. Increasing Equity Through BHS Drivers Education, leader Jocelyn Vendola. Therapeutic Approaches in Art Education, leader Donna Sartanowitz. Colonialism, Climate, and Cultures of Resistance in Puerto Rico, leader Roger Grandy. Professional Development and Collaboration, Expanding and Refining the Peer Empowerment Program, leader Allison Kerr. And Reimagining Ninth Grade, Cognitive Potential for All Students, leader Anthony Meyer. Would all leaders and participants in our collaborative grants please stand? And congratulations. And now I would like to introduce Karen Wang, who will announce the special awards.
In addition to awarding grants, the BEF also has 3 additional awards given to teachers who receive teacher grants. First is the Galfand Award. On behalf of the Brookline Education Foundation, I'm honored to announce the recipient of the 2023 Adam Russell Galfand Fellowship, Danielle Goldie, 7th grade science and health teacher at Baker School. She will travel to Iceland to study tectonic activity and geology. This award was created to honor the memory of Adam Russell Galfand, a Baker student who died in 5th grade. Adam's parents established the award to honor and recognize the many teachers who were important to Adam during his life. Unfortunately, Danielle could not be here today, but we congratulate her. The next award is the Charlie Baker Legacy Award. The Charlie Baker Legacy Award was created by a generous donor in 2008 to honor Mr. Baker for extraordinary service in a time of need. This annual award provides additional funding to a BEF grant recipient for continuing education, travel, program development, or other similar pursuits in the area of U.S. history and/or world geography. The 2023 Charlie Baker Legacy Award is presented to Elise Terry, a Heath Middle School and social studies teacher. She will travel to Rome to learn more about ancient cities, bring back artifacts, hopefully none illegal, and work on making the curriculum more hands-on for her students. Elise, will you please stand and to be recognized? Bravo. The third award I like to announce is the David Pradell Award. For the 3rd year, the BEF is giving an award to an outstanding middle school teacher in memory of a beloved middle school teacher at Driscoll, David E. Pradell. This award is presented to a teacher of middle school students whose work stimulates students' imagination, curiosity, helps students develop self-assurance and self-esteem, encourages student collaboration, sounds like God, I don't know, and instills an abiding sense of social responsibility. This year, we're happy to announce that the David E. Pradell Award is presented to 6th grade ELA and Social Studies teacher Amanda David. She will participate in a summer institute at the National Gallery of Art, working with teachers to teach empathy, perspective, social-emotional learning skills through art. Congratulations, Amanda. Now I announce the Margaret Metzger Fellowship Awards. Every summer, the BF funds 6 teachers to work together in a workshop format to write about their experiences in the classroom as Margaret Metzger Fellows. Margaret Metzger taught English at Brookline High School for over 40 years before her death in 2013. She influenced thousands of students and educators through her teaching, writing, and mentoring. These fellows continue Margaret Metzger's work, thinking about the classroom, writing about teaching, and furthering the art of educating young people. We are thrilled to announce the latest class of Margaret Metzger Fellows. Brendan McCarthy, BHS Transition Counselor, Hannah Lawrence, and 7th and 8th grade English teacher, Julia Mangan, a BHS Physics, Jeanette Sargent, Baker Counselor, and Tim Hins, Pierce Counselor. Lastly, Peter Sadak, BHS English teacher. There will be a public celebration of the Margaret Metzger Fellows in the fall. Please keep an eye out for the date. We hope you'll join us.
And now for the Caverly Awards. In 1984, the BEF created the Ernest R. Caverly Award to recognize Brookline educators who have made outstanding contributions to excellence in education. The award is named after Dr. Caverly, a distinguished public school leader, educator, and Brookline school superintendent. Each year, the BEF asks educators in Brookline to nominate fellow colleagues for the award. We then convene a committee, which I was honored to be a part of this year. Our committee is composed of BEF board members and prior Caverly Award winners who consider the wonderfully descriptive and inspiring letters submitted in support of each nominee by colleagues, parents, and former students. We at the Brookline Education Foundation are delighted to announce this year's Caverly Award winners. Sarah O'Shea is a middle school English teacher at Heath. Since 2009, when she began as a paraprofessional at the Lincoln School, Sarah has stood out as a beacon of warmth, kindness, and inclusivity. When she joined the Heath School as an English language arts and social studies teacher, she quickly became a collaborator with her colleagues and a trusted adult for many students. A middle school teacher with high standards for herself, her students, and her colleagues, and a faculty leader for Heath's Gender and Sexuality Alliance, as well as an excellent all-around educator, the BEF is so proud to give this award to Sarah O'Shea. It's my pleasure to introduce Asa Sevelius, the principal of the Heath School, who will tell us about Sarah.
Thank you to the BEF. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, of course, to Sarah and her excellent practice. I love this evening, not only because we get to celebrate, the good work that we're doing, but it just feels like we're reaping all these benefits, like this financial downpour of goodness coming into our communities. So I'm really excited to see how we use the money. But to Sarah. Today I do stand here to celebrate Sarah O'Shea, the middle school ELA teacher at the Heath School, for this amazing award in excellence in teaching. During my tenure in the public schools of Brookline, this is my 9th year, Miss O'Shea has consistently provided a warm fellowship for me through her wit, compassionate practice, and just that overall sense of warmth I think you're going to hear a lot about tonight. For me, there is a real kinship with Sarah. I admire and commend her thoughtful, innovative, compelling practices and see her in my own core beliefs. Her behaviors, I feel, in my own core beliefs. And I feel those behaviors and core beliefs are activated in a very real way on behalf of students. After 9 years, I'm still struck by Miss O'Shea's joyful practice, the absolute faith she has in her students, and the agency everyone in the classroom seems to have, adults and students alike, and the deeply engaging learning opportunities on offer, even after 9 years of seeing her in action. Every time I get to revel a bit in what's happening in that classroom. No matter when I visit, I am really overwhelmed again by the complicated, joyful, safe, rigorous, talented, inviting, cool, authentic, connecting, and affirming opportunities. The joy of literature is matched by the myriad opportunities to grapple with language, perspective, and societal complexities. And Sarah does not shy away from these things. Miss O'Shea is doing something really exciting in her classroom, and the kids are right there with her. No matter how hard the work, no matter how hard the ask, no matter how rich and difficult and complex the task, the kids are right there with her. As discussed already, Sarah also facilitates our GSA, and she has since its conception in 2015. We were the second K-8 school to launch our GSA in the public schools of Brookline. Driscoll was the first. But once news of the Driscoll launch happened, Sarah showed up and leaned in my doorframe and she said, I want to do this too. I'm ready, I'm going to do this. And she volunteered in that moment to lead the launch, and she's stuck with it all these years. Miss O'Shea isn't a teacher first and then the GSA advisor second. The two roles feed each other simultaneously and seamlessly. Her stewardship of the program and careful ways that she privileges the LGBTQ students in our community during the GSA meetings as well as in classes add a very particular depth of love and courage many do not attribute to the middle school experience. There is, in fact, a cliche in the queer community that the English teacher is the first safe person a young queer person knows, and that English teacher serves as a guardian angel for closeted youth. Is it because the English teacher is the bringer of books and the opener of perspectives? Could it be that the classroom of the English teacher is where you can eat your lunch if the chaos of the cafeteria is too much to bear? Is it the theatrical readings of Shakespearean dramas about forbidden love? Is it the ability to see beyond the present moment and claw in messages of love and hope beyond the emotionally fraught cacophony of the middle school experience? Is it perhaps all of those things? Is Sarah O'Shea simply the embodiment of the age-old tradition of the English teachers loving children exactly as they are right now and for no other reason than they deserve love? Maybe. Only each child can tell that story of that very real and very personal connection. What I do know is that inherent in Sarah's practice is the very real potential for such goodness and compassion and care, and that she seems to be actively tapping into that potential every time she shows up at school. And when all is said and done, that is enough. So I congratulate Sarah and thank you all very much.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Savalius Asa. That was really beautiful. So, I didn't expect to be awarded the Caverly, and I certainly didn't expect the BEF and the superintendent and my principal and my colleagues to come parading into my room to film it while I was dressed as a pig. But that is just exactly how my life seems to go. I have one vision, and something very wacky happens instead. But fortunately, my mom always modeled and instilled in me the ability to laugh at myself when these ridiculous things happen. This helps me every day in my classroom. I laugh daily at my mistakes and myself, where I like to think that I model imperfection and vulnerability in hopes of making my students feel like they can also do the same. I've always been a bit of a performer. I've never imagined I would become an English teacher. Little did I know how much my theater experience and training would serve me in school. From an early age, I had my sights set on stardom. I aspired to be a Broadway actress. And when I was 6 years old, I imagined myself being the epitome of famous, being invited to host an episode of The Muppet Show. And with my own duet with Kermit the Frog. My family supported my dreams and had me enrolled in a local drama club, and I loved it. Did I ever get to be that starlet, though? No, not once. I was big, awkward, and loud, and so rather than being cast as that dainty, demure, feminine character, I was always cast as the loud, assertive one. Beauty and the Beast, I was the Beast. And Christmas Carol, Scrooge. You get the idea. My Hollywood aspirations aside, though, school had always felt like a safe place for me. Without saying too much on the subject, some aspects of my childhood were really challenging. But I had great role models and adults always looking out for me. School was my safe place. And like any theatrical performance, the backstage chaos of home was hidden behind the curtain. And for 8 hours of the day, I had so many positive and supported teachers giving me opportunities to thrive and perform. Do I remember those lessons? Absolutely not. But what I remember were those novel opportunities that my teachers provided. It started with Miss Conley in 3rd grade, giving me time to perform a weekly paper bag puppet show for my class. And in 5th grade, Mr. Golly choreographed a blacklight dance to King Tut, the Steve Martin classic. And in 6th grade, my favorite place to be, I had the crankiest of teachers, Miss McDevitt. And she was a near-retirement battle axe of a nun. She was a former nun. But she loved theater. So we put on a play for every history unit. For the last month of school, it took very little convincing on my part to convince her that I could write, cast, and run rehearsals for her favorite musical if you just give me the time. And so we put on The Sound of Music that spring. And as a teacher, these experiences truly filled my sails and built my confidence and kept me connected, even though it was a difficult time for me. And as a teacher now, I realize that so many of us here in this room and in our classrooms, we're always on the lookout for those kids who need a little extra care to get them through the day. These opportunities that I were given were not coincidental, but very intentional, and that's my mission each day. I want to make it fun, and I want to make it memorable. High school was much the same for me. I tried to keep up the role of good student, and everything is fine by throwing myself into all my opportunities. Looking back, though, I realized that my teachers all co-conspired to personally invite me in and keep me busy and away from some of the negative influences of my falling apart friendships. I had a very painful friend breakup due to her substance abuse, and it was the same year that I was personally invited to join the literary magazine with Miss Boyle. I had show choir and drama rehearsal 3 days a week after school with Mr. Shannon, and my guidance counselor, Miss Amaral, would just always coincidentally bump into me in the hallway and invite me to go into her office for some quiet time before PE class. And it's now that I understand and see that all of these compassionate educators in my high school were so connected to each other and all looking out for me. They were all making sure I had as many positive opportunities as possible. So it is in their honor that I try to personally invite any kid I can to come to room 199, especially on GSA days, which was today. After high school, with my sights still set on making life as an actress and a wave of supporters behind me, I was accepted to Emerson College's acting program. And to cut to the chase, after my first semester, I quickly realized I was not cut out for that. I was not competitive enough. I was not thick-skinned enough. I took things very personally. But I did have a professor, Bethany Nelson, and on the first day of class, she memorized 60 of our names and made sure to use them frequently and every time she saw us. It's very hard to stand out in a group of theater kids. But she made such an effort to see and know us, because there was this one day I was walking across the Boston Common, saw her coming, didn't think she'd recognize me. She stopped and said, "Sarah, I've been hoping to run into you. I have this book. I've been waiting for you." And she handed me this yellow softcover book about feminism in theater. I felt seen, I felt remembered, and after a stretch of feeling quite invisible. She taught theater ed, and so I decided I wanted more of that. And that next semester, I sought out more of her classes, and I quickly found my people. They were kind, empathetic, wholly goofy, just like the Muppets. So I shifted my focus from performance to education. And what did I love about theater anyway? It was connecting, storytelling, empathizing, and experiencing something with people. I'm so grateful for Bethany Nelson and Bob Colby for helping me find those people. So after a few twists and turns out of college, I found myself directing Less and More, and my friend and fellow drama camp counselor, Beth Greenwood from Lincoln School, former Cavalier Award winner, invited me to come work with her as a pair at her school, and it was there that I saw general ed in a whole new light. I was working closely with kiddos that would never volunteer in a million years to jump on stage, but I found myself pulling all kinds of stunts and performances to engage with them and make our day as fun as possible. At Lincoln, I received the best training to be a teacher by observing and working closely with Beth Greenwood and Suzanne Howard in 3rd grade, Katie Flynn in 4th grade. I had some of my most challenging and greatest opportunities to learn behavior management in Caitlin Rogers Learning Center. It was called the ILP then. There were days I was called a stinky poo-poo face in a music room of 3rd graders. I quickly had to learn how to dodge bingo chips being hurled at my head while calling out numbers. But the show had to go on. I learned to keep my pride out of it and do whatever it took to help us get through the day. And these were incredibly formative years for me. I got to see adults whom I truly respect model such compassion and care for their students. And I got really lucky, and I was able to complete my student teaching for my graduate program while I was a para there, because of all the adults behind the scenes who helped me make it happen. And now, unbelievably, to me, it's been 10 years at Heath, and time has flown by. I find great stability and reward in what I do, and I'm so fortunate to be part of such a great ensemble. Thank you for being here. I consider many of my colleagues dear friends that have seen me through many dramas of my life inside and outside of school. I haven't stepped on stage as an actor in years. However, the adrenaline I got from rehearsing, performing, and directing translates quite perfectly to my classroom. There are infinite opportunities for me and my students to workshop, practice, get better every day. And at this point in my career, I have even less shame and fear of embarrassment. And I will go to great lengths to openly fail, laugh at myself, and try again in class, in hopes that my students also feel the same. Just like my most memorable teachers did for me, I try to make my lessons just as playful and light as possible. I don't think my students will remember that lesson on introductions and conclusions, but I do hope they will remember my screaming Latka read aloud, where I scream at the top of my lungs at them. The stories I share about bubbles and morgue water, or the time that the escaped hedgehog lived under my classroom bookshelves for 2 weeks, or dressing up as a book character for a classroom dinner party, which is how I ended up receiving the honor, dressed as a pig. And I hope my students and colleagues feel safe, seen, and joyful in room 199. Did I become that demure starlet singing with Kermit the Frog I envisioned at 6 years old? Well, not exactly. I have no shame. But just like Miss Piggy herself, I contain multitudes. I'm imperfectly entertaining, unconventionally fabulous, and I'm from humble beginnings. I'm looking forward to growing my cast of Muppets for many more seasons, and thank you to my Heath family for the nominations, and to the BEF for supporting amazing opportunities for us and our students. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Elizabeth Crane, a BHS biology teacher, is a true teacher. Liz's enthusiasm for her subject, love and respect for her students, and desire to help other students and teachers is evident in everything she does. As a teacher at the high school, Liz makes it a point to make real connections, not only with her own students, but also with other students in the school who she may not teach, but might run into. For 21 years, Liz Crane has been putting students first in every way. By revamping the biology curriculum, making it more hands-on and interactive, encouraging all students to succeed, and making sure their non-academic selves are in good shape as well. As a mentor to new teachers, Ms. Crane is also fully present and available to give feedback, advice, and collaboration. She's a treasure to the high school and the science department, and the BEF is thrilled to give her the Caverly Award. It's my pleasure to introduce Anthony Meyer, head of school at Brookline High School, who will say a few words about Elizabeth Crane.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, BEF. Thank you, colleagues of Brookline High School and across the district. Thank you, families and friends of Liz and Sarah in particular who are here today. I want to take a moment and say congratulations to Sarah O'Shea. Thank you so much for that gift of a speech to us. I really appreciate it. Congratulations. It's my job, though, to introduce Liz Crane to you, and I can't do that without saying her name a few times, and I'll hopefully explain why. So, Elizabeth Crane, Elizabeth Crane, Elizabeth Crane. I have been a dean at Brookline High School for a long time. I am no longer, but still sometimes long to be. And when kids are struggling, or when we're preparing for a year, we look at our kids' schedules who we're worried about and see who the teachers are that are going to wrap around a kid who we're concerned for. And I can just tell you that when I saw Elizabeth Crane on a schedule, it was a guarantee to me that a kid would be cared for and well taught. So Elizabeth Crane, Elizabeth Crane, Elizabeth Crane. I will not try to imitate high schoolers as much as I want to, but I need to tell you in the words that I have that when kids who are Liz Crane students talk about her, it is with an awe and a love that is palpable. Again, I can better describe it than I can say it, but the tone lifts as they say, Ms. Crane, Ms. Crane, Ms. Crane, and to watch the kids, her students, as we presented, as Linus referenced, a bunch of us poured in, and it was not during a class time. So I believe during X block, which is the time when kids want to do just their own thing, there they all were to celebrate Liz Crane, and it was a wonderful moment. I also want to acknowledge there are many people in the room who could present Liz because they worked closely with her. I think of Ed Weiser, our science chair. I think of Bob Weintraub, our former head of school who helped hire Liz. I think of Steph McAllister, who helps run Teachers Mentoring Teachers. I look at Liz's biology teachers. There are so many people that love Liz Crane, and I am one of them. Liz, I'm not going to read the testimonials about you that were submitted to the BEF as much as I'd love to. I want you to read directly what your colleagues, students, families said about you and have a private moment where you can just take that all in. I suggest Kleenex, but they're wonderful testimonials to the work that you do. Liz Crane is a wonderful person. I want to make a joke how there's no one as wonderful as her in this room, but I realize that might offend some of you, so I won't make that. That's humor, even if it's imperceptible. She's also an excellent teacher, and Catherine spoke to some of that. I think one phrase that has become in vogue is the notion of the warm demander. And I would just say, as I said the day that we shared with Liz that she had won the Cavalry, she is the personification of the warm demander. She is such an incredibly nice human being. And almost more importantly, she has incredibly high expectations for every kid. And that matters because I know they feel the love from Ms. Crane, and they also feel like they can do more than they ever imagined they could. And that combination, that deep care, that push and pull that is you propelling them towards their future, learning, growing, is also palpable. And kids know that. I think we all know this in this room, certainly the educators, that kids are watching us and sensing what our tone is, what our attitude is towards them in any given moment. And Liz Crane does an incredible job of moving kids forward. Liz is also a leader, an absolute leader, and there are many teachers, I almost said students, but teachers in this room who have experienced the combination of Liz and Steph in teachers mentoring teachers. And I can't talk about that experience without acknowledging that when I came here 19 years ago and had Gail Davis and Margaret Metzger, who was referenced earlier, as the leaders of that program, it made me realize this is an incredibly special high school. This is an incredibly special district. And when our newest teachers are led into the enterprise, acculturated, supported, and pushed with kindness by the likes of Steph McAllister and Liz Crane, the world is a wonderful, wonderful place. Lastly, I would just say I always try to stick to the belief, maybe from the WHO, that the kids are all right. And it has been hard at times post-pandemic to say that with as much confidence. And I just want to acknowledge that Liz has had some difficult situations to navigate this year as a teacher. And I am respectful. I respect deeply how you, Liz, handled those incredibly challenging situations, continued to push with high expectations, and to stay strong, stay graceful, and stay a model for who we ought to be as human beings, especially in a learning and teaching context. So more importantly, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the winner of Brookline High School's, well, it's not really Brookline High School's, it's the BEF's Ernest R. Caverly, but our version, the counterpart to Sarah O'Shea, Elizabeth, Ms. Crane, Liz Crane, come on up. Congratulations.
All right, can you hear me? All right. Thank you so much, Anthony. That was a lot of really wonderful, warm words, and I really appreciate it. And Sarah, it's such a fun award to share with you. What an honor. Let's thank Dr. Guillory for leading us, and of course, Anthony for his work as our BHS principal, Bob Weintraub, former BHS principal, also here today, BEF members and leadership for their support, as well as the funding of so many rejuvenating and inspiring grants over the years, especially ones that afforded me the chance to attend different professional conferences. I want to thank parents and students, past and present, all of my BHS colleagues, especially Ed Weiser, and the entire science department, biology colleagues and friends, Sarah Hemphill, Heather Giblin, Brianna Brown, Dory Lamb, Wen Saylor, Brad Kozel, Ben Little, Jasmine Juo, Abby Janes, and Catherine Wolf, who make my job infinitely more fun and so much more collaborative. Stephanie McAllister, my partner in teacher mentoring work at BHS, and Brian Poon, who long ago introduced me to BHS. the entire Pierce community, including current principal Jamie Yadoff and past principal Leslie Ryan Miller. My 5th and 8th grade children attend Pierce through the materials fee program, and that hugely magnifies my loyalty and human connection that I feel with PSB. And of course, the most important thank yous, my family, my parents are here, my aunt and uncle are here, my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law are all here today. My husband, Nat, who has spent, I think, almost his entire life in the same household as a Brookline High teacher. Not sure anybody else has quite that same honor. His dad, Steve Tipton, was a longtime and much-loved BHS English teacher. Nat is endlessly supportive of the never-ending work of the various teachers in his life. And of course, my own awesome, amazing kids, Molly, the 8th grader, and Hannah, the 5th grader. Before beginning, I should also clarify that I anonymously discussed 2 specific students. Each of these students has pre-approved the relevant sections of this speech. So I thank each of these students for what they've taught me and their willingness to be featured today. All right, here goes. I was not always a fan of Brookline High School, nor did I intend to pursue biology or stay in teaching for very long. I grew up in Lexington, attending Lexington High School and playing on the tennis team. We thought we had a pretty good team until we decisively lost to Brookline High in the state tournament over 2 consecutive years. I was not a Brookline High fan. In middle and high school, I loved the logic of math and languages. I still think today of my incredible Latin teacher, Dr. Fivash, and how he related so deeply to his students and instilled in us a love of learning. Science, on the other hand, was not my thing. In 10th grade, I enrolled in AP Biology and lasted for about 3 weeks. It seemed like a whole lot of gibberish to me with altogether way too much memorization. Come college, math had become far too abstract, and French was suddenly an analysis of literature. I became interested in a career in medicine, and so I gave the sciences another try. This time, I loved them. I majored in biology and decided to take a break for a few years before graduation, and I thought I would teach during that break before the intensity of medical training. Well, I think we all know how this story ends. Spoiler alert, I didn't go to medical school, and teaching was not a break. I fell in love with teaching at the Fieldston School, a private school in New York City. After 3 years, I left, seeking a job in a public school, but wondering if I'd ever love a school community as much as I loved Fieldston. I went to graduate school and then landed a job in Brookline. My first year was rough, but the Teachers Mentoring Teachers, TMT program, was a lifeline. I doubted my ability to successfully run a classroom at BHS, let alone find joy in the work. But each subsequent year got better, and I'm so glad I stayed. So what has kept me in teaching, and at Brookline High in particular? Undoubtedly, it's the people, colleagues, the community in general, and of course, the students. And there is another element as well. While in TMT program as a first-year teacher, I remember longtime and brilliant English teacher Margaret Metzger, who we've heard a little bit about already, telling me, my closest friends know not to ask me, how's your teaching year going? But instead, Margaret, what are you working on this year? She continued, these questions, what am I working on during any given year? That's what keeps me in teaching. So what questions am I working on? What questions have kept me in teaching for the past 24 years? Well, during my first years, I was just working on survival questions, like, how can I minimize the chance of being mistaken for a student again? How do I not turn beet red and start to sweat profusely when students ask me questions I do not have the expertise to answer? Over the next years, my questions became much more about structure, and then veered toward curriculum. And now I also think about systemic and philosophical questions with no easy-to-solve answers. How can schools and systems best take care of each of their educators in the same way that educators strive to take the best possible care of each student? Or what leadership opportunities can systems and schools extend to mid-career educators, keeping them firmly grounded in their practice and classrooms and also honoring their expertise and wisdom? And for a more philosophical question, in what ways is disequilibrium necessary for growth and learning? It's this final question, in what way is disequilibrium necessary for growth and learning, that I want to explore a little bit more today. I love using biology content as an analogy for life wisdom. For example, when studying the teeny tiny ants that protect the rainforest's massive trees, I remind my students that little things in life matter more than you think. Or when studying the myriad of enzymes that must work together to catalyze a single process like DNA replication, I ask my students to consider the value of teamwork and the whole being more than the sum of its parts. And back to the idea of disequilibrium, we have a unit on neurons and the ways in which brain cells transmit messages. We take an in-depth look at the imbalance of sodium ions across the cell membrane. The students come to understand that neurons would be unresponsive and inert without this imbalance. And we start to talk a little bit about their own lives. And yes, how balance is important. And so too is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone as long as the right supports are in place. I ask my students to think about times in which they learned more or differently because they weren't let off the hook or because they extended into a zone of disequilibrium. So how has this idea of disequilibrium played out in strong and powerful ways over my career here at BHS? Some examples relate to my own professional development. Participating in SEED was one such powerful experience. The support was undeniable and critical. Facilitators and colleagues Cara Lopez and Jeanette Sargent nourished our bellies with spectacular breakfasts at the beginning of each of our Saturday morning sessions. While eating warm coffee cake and crispy bacon, our SEED group learned about, reflected upon, and discussed race, ethnicity, ability, sexuality, gender, and socioeconomics on personal, educational, and systemic levels, realizing that you truly don't know what you don't know. There was discomfort, support, honesty, growth, and joy. Without that combination of disequilibrium and support, I know that the learning would have been nowhere near as powerful. Other times, the disequilibrium plays out in my classroom. Several years ago in the late fall, I vividly remember talking with a student, quiet, hardworking, inquisitive, collaborative. With a slight wobble in her voice, she told me, "AP biology is too hard. I'm going to drop it. I love learning biology, but I can't do this class. I can't get this grade." Having seen her attitude and work ethic over the previous months, I told her that she 100% belonged in the course and that I was reluctant to consider a switch. She seemed surprised, nervous, and initially kind of upset with my pushback. We continued with a conversation about how meaningful it feels to truly earn a grade through hard work over time, rather than sail through with an A. Together, we agreed that she would stay in the course. She re-entered with renewed confidence, doing incredibly impressive work, gaining resilience, and finding a deeper understanding of herself. As a teacher, it is tough to know how far to push students in their disequilibrium. Certainly there are times when changing courses would be the right decision. But when do we have an obligation to push, as long as important relationships and strong support exist? At a place such as Brookline High, we know that pressure plays a huge and often detrimental role. But sometimes a well-timed push from a trusted mentor, colleague, teacher, or peer becomes a critical vote of confidence, a statement of profound belief in a person's abilities. Still other times, the disequilibrium plays out in the hallway. I was in a hurry going back to my classroom, likely with a stack of recently photocopied handouts, knowing that my biology students would soon be arriving. I walked past a group of students I did not recognize. They seemed to be having a good time together, and then I heard one of them use language I found deeply offensive. I knew I had to stop. I tried to figure out what to do with the handouts on the verge of spilling all over the place, and then I introduced myself. Hi, I'm Ms. Crane. I teach biology right over there. Wondering if you know why I've stopped. Silence. No eye contact. A few long seconds passed. I heard you say something I couldn't ignore. More silence. Do you know what I'm referring to? No. And then more silence, followed by anger, the student running away, and me flailing as I tried one last time to encourage the student to come back, offer their name, and engage with me. I was frustrated, upset, and really uncomfortable. I caught a few physical details and started composing an email in my mind. With T-minus 2 minutes before class was due to begin, I quickly wrote a semi-descriptive email to multiple deans. By the time my class had ended and I checked email again, I had replies from all of them, including one in particular who was on it. A few hours later, the dean had a name as well as the name of the student's social worker. I wrote to the social worker and we arranged for a meeting between the social worker, the student, and myself. I dreaded the meeting, and the student probably did too. Couldn't I just skip it? Was it really as important as it had seemed in that moment? The three of us sat down, the social worker doing a masterful job setting up the tone of the meeting. I reintroduced myself. The students' body language was closed, and they were not interested in participating. By the end of the meeting, the student had spoken, albeit briefly and unwillingly. But we had begun the process of working through rather than working around. At the end of the following summer, I got rosters for my classes. The student was on my roster. How would this go? How would the student react? How would I react? I greeted students at the door. Most of the students were new to me, but of course not this particular student. Should I play dumb? Pretend we'd never met? No, that didn't feel quite right. Should I say, oh, you're the one from the hallway last year, and then the meeting with the social worker? Definitely not. So I just smiled and said I was happy to see her. The student gave me a quick smile back. She entered the room, sat down with her friends. The class began shortly afterward. Fast forward a few months, the student and I found space to talk a little bit. How did you feel being assigned to my class? Nervous, the student replied. I wasn't sure how it would go. I confessed that I felt the same way, but that I was so glad the student had landed in my class. She agreed. In working through this encounter, there was a lot of disequilibrium and a lot of support. And the support was not only of the student, but also of me. The social worker used a combination of skill and magic, to quote Elon Fisher's speech many years ago, to help turn a wounding hallway encounter into a rocky and then wonderful beginning of a much longer relationship with this student. Do students, teachers, deans, and social workers wish for these encounters? Absolutely not. But when they do happen, there are opportunities for growth on all sides. Maybe there's another biology lesson in here. When bone fractures occur, our skeleton heals back stronger if given the proper medical attention. Likewise, when social wounds occur, relationships can heal back stronger if given the right support. And there's another lesson here. We desperately need our amazing social workers at Brookline High. But sometimes, maybe even most of the time, balance and relaxation and exhalation are just what we need. After all, cells also spend a lot of time in equilibrium. Our favorite comfort foods, quiet time in nature, personal and classroom routines, sun-drenched beaches, and laughter with friends, family, colleagues, and students fill our tanks and afford us the energy to grow during times of supported disequilibrium. So, here's to those who came before us and to the questions that keep us in the business of teaching. Here's to finding balance, embracing complexity, knowing when to push and when to hold back. Here's to being supports for one another as we, just like brain cells, venture into disequilibrium while also joyfully experiencing the extended times of equilibrium. Here's to us, an amazing, incredibly skilled, and dynamic group of Brookline educators.
One last thing before we go. One more exciting announcement. Every 5 years, the BEF honors an outstanding administrator in the public schools of Brookline. After a very difficult selection process, the BEF is pleased to give Dan Bresman, the coordinator of School Within a School at Brookline High School, the Sperber Award for Administrative Leadership. Please be on the lookout in the fall for information about a celebration in honor of Dan. I want to thank our donors once again for their strong and consistent support. This exciting work would not be possible without their generosity. And finally, I want to thank our educators. You teach, you mentor, and you inspire our children. The Brookline community appreciates and values all that you do. Thank you so very much. Please join us outside in the hall for a reception. So.